In this video, we are going to review for your Chapter 2 test, which is on linear functions. My suggestion would be to try a problem first and then watch the video to see if you are correct. I will remind you to periodically stop and try things on your own. All right, so the first question is asking for a domain and range. So hopefully you recall that domain is the set of all x values and the range is the set of all y values. Now, I do not have separate ordered pairs to list for the domain and range, so I'm setting this up as a compound inequality. So my domain would be how far to the left and how far to the right does it go. So my strategy is always to label endpoints like the lowest and the highest and how far left and how far right. So this looks like the endpoint -3, 14, and on the right it looks like +3, 14. The bottom, known as the vertex of this parabola shape, looks like the ordered pair 0, 5. And that's going to help me identify the least and greatest values. So for the domain, I'm just switching tools here. Okay, so for the domain, the smallest x value I would say is -3, and the greatest x value is +3. So as an inequality, it would be -3 is less than or equal to x, which is less than or equal to -3. Now you ask yourself, how low and how high does it go for the range? Make sure you look at your y values. So the lowest y value is 5, and the greatest y value is 14. So there's your domain and your range for that particular function. And it is a function because it passes the vertical line test. The next question is about writing the equation of a line and interpreting the different parts. So the Nook Sports Complex charges an initiation fee and a monthly fee for their gym membership for their guests over different numbers of months. So I look at my table, and one of the things I start by doing is I kind of mark my x and my y. So this would be, the months would be like the x, and the y is like c. So I realize that my final answer is going to be c equals something m, and what's a little confusing is m here is months, it's not slope, plus my y-intercept. So I need to figure out my slope and my y-intercept. So to find my slope, I'm going to select any 2 points from the table. I'm going to choose to use the first 2. It doesn't matter what. Just go with something. So my slope, and I'm not going to write m equals because I don't want you to think it's the m in the problem. I'm going to write slope equals, I'm going to do 54 minus 39, subtract your y values, over 3 minus 1. So 54 minus 39, it's 15 if I just did my math right, over 2. And you can leave it as 15 over 2. We could change it to a decimal because it might make a little more sense in the context of this problem. So that would be 750. And I'm saying it like that because I believe there's money involved in this problem, so it'll help me interpret it in a moment. So I still need my b value. So again, I'm going to use one of my ordered pairs to get my b value. I'm going to plug in for c, which would be, I'm going to use 39. So 39 is equal to 750 times the number of months, 1 plus b. Now solving this will result in my y-intercept. So I'm going to get 750 on the right, so I'm going to end up subtracting 750 from each side, which would be 3150 is equal to b. So my final answer is going to be c equals 750m plus 3150. Now I'm going to explain what the slope represents in the context of the problem. I'm going to put 750, and since it's about money, one of the ways I could do this is when I go back to where I calculated the slope, the label up here was money, if you're looking right here where I calculated slope, and I'm going to put a label on the bottom which was month. So this tells me that it would be $7.50 per month. Now, what does the Y-intercept mean in the context of the problem? Well, that would be an initial fee. So if you look back, it says that they charge an initiation fee, so that would mean that there is a $31.50 initiation fee. It's probably just for signing up. When I go to the gym, they always want to charge me like a paperwork fee. The next question is a direct variation question. It says your weight in the water, W, varies directly with your weight on the land. And I helped you out by underlining things, but you need to learn to do that on your own. The moment I read that sentence, it tells me that I have W equals K L, where K is my constant of variation. It's my slope. So I need to find the value of K. So even just looking at these problems, I know I can eliminate A, or looking at these answers rather, because that has a Y-intercept that's not 0. All right, so now I'm going to use the given information, 140 pounds on land, well, K, and 86 for W. So to solve for K, I'm going to divide each side by 140, and when I do that, I'm going to get a fraction of 43 over 70. Now it's really easy in this problem to put things in the wrong order. So my final answer here is W equals 43/70 L, which matches with option C. Number 4 asks, does the graph show y as a function of x? I would say no, because it fails the vertical line test is the easiest explanation here. No, fails the vertical line test. This next one we've done several times in this unit. So I always start by sketching a graph. It says the amount of corn in a silo can be modeled by the function 180 minus 12t. So with quick sketch, I know it's dropping because I can see that the slope is negative. So I'm going to label these values. This would be 0, 180, and I need to find the x-intercept, which means I let the function equal to 0. So it would be 180 minus 12t is equal to 0. So I'm going to solve this by adding 12t to both sides, and then I divide 180 divided by 12, which gives me 15. So this ordered pair is 15, 0. So now I can set this up, and I'm going to use t for my domain, and I'm going to use c of t for my range, which is my y value. And again, this is continuous data, so I'm going to set this up as an inequality. So I can see that my smallest x value is 0 and my largest is 15. Now I said x, but it is t in this problem, but I know you're more accustomed to x. My smallest y value, or c of t, is 0 and my largest is 180. Now remember that there are 3 parts that I'm looking for in your explanation. First of all, I'm saying that both t and c of t must be greater than 0 because you can't have negative time, nor can you have negative units of corn. The next thing I'm stating is that t is less than or equal to 15, so this part right here, because it would take 15 minutes to drain the silo. And the third thing is c of t must be less than or equal to 180 because there are 180 units of corn at the start. Now, I'm going to bypass number 6 because it is very identical. You can have me check your answer if you're unsure. So let's go on to number 7. Number 7 is asking for the slope and the y-intercept. So the easiest thing to do here is change this to slope-intercept form. So I'm going to add 5x to both sides. I'm sorry, struggling with my tools here. I'm going to add 5x to both sides, which gives me 3y is equal to 5x plus 18, and then I divide both sides by 3, which gives me y equals 5/3 x plus 6. So from here, I know that my slope is 5 over 3, and my y-intercept is 6. Okay, number 8. A machine at a factory that makes jam dispenses the same amount of jam into each jar every time the machine is used. The equation below describes the relationship between the number of jars x and the gallons of jam remaining in the machine. So Y is the amount remaining in the machine. How many gallons of jam are in the machine when it's full? Well, if you think about this question, I'm a visual learner, so I always think about, okay, so it's starting somewhere and it's filling jams of jars. So the amount of jam remaining in the machine is going to drop as it fills things. So this value right here would be the starting point, or in other words, what is the y-intercept? So if you just solve this equation for the y-intercept, easiest way to do that is let x be 0. So that would give you 5y equals 150, and you divide both sides then by 5, which would give you 30. So that would mean that there are 30 gallons when the machine is full. Okay. Now, this next one states that there are, or let me see, 3 summers ago, I went on a family car trip to Maine. Actually, it was this past summer. When she was 60 miles from home, Mrs. Stoltzfus began recording their car's distance in miles after H hours in the table shown below. Write an equation to find the distance d in miles after the number of hours h. So again, this is like x and y. So you want to use the letters given though, h and d. So my answer is going to be d equals something. So I need to find my slope and my y-intercept. But one of the things I notice is my y-intercept is given 0.60. So I'm not going to go through it algebraically because I spot it. I just need to find my slope. So I can do my slope formula. I can also look at this and go, you know what, how much is it going up by each time? And it looks to me like it's going up 42. I'm going to check that. Yep, 42 plus 42. That would be my change in y. Now what's my change in x? It's going up by 1 each time. Slope is equal to the change in y over the change in x. So rather than doing the slope formula, I can see right away that it's 42 over 1. Or just 42. So the equation here is d equals 42h plus 60. In part B, it says Mrs. Stoltzfus also kept track of how much gas they used on the trip. The equation shown below can be used to find the gallons of gas left, known as G, after driving d miles. So use this equation to find the missing values. I think you'll be pretty good with this. All you're doing is substituting. So plug in 60. I'd pause the video and make sure that you agree with me in a second. So there are the 3 values I got, and it says explain why the slope of this line is negative in this situation. Well, I would say that it has to be negative because as the distance driven increases, the amount of gas remaining would decrease. Finally, in number 10, you're being asked to find the equation of the line of best fit. But first, let me see, we're actually asked to draw a line of best fit. So when I do this, I want it to have, let's see, an equal. I'm struggling with my tools again. Let me just undo that. Well, let me delete it. So I'm just going to try again. Something like this. I want about an equal amount of points above and below that line. So it looks to me like there's definitely a positive correlation that as the temperature increases, the ice cream sales also increases. Then I give you a set of 4 ordered pairs that you're supposed to use to find the line of best fit. So to do that, you're going to use your graphing calculator. Let me remind you, you hit Stat, go to Edit, and you're going to enter your x values in for L1 and your y values in for L2. If you need to delete anything, if you highlight L2 and you hit clear enter, it will delete everything out of that row without deleting the actual column L2. Go back to your main screen after your data is entered, hit second quit, and then there's a series of buttons that you hit. You hit Stat, arrow over to Calc, and select option 4. My screen looks a little bit different than yours because I have a different model calculator. I hit enter, and right there I can see my slope, which is right here. That's the A. So you want to round that. I think the direction side of the nearest 10, 34.8, and my y-intercept would be negative 241.8. So the equation of my line of best fit would be y equals 34.8 x minus 241.8, but I better check and make sure, are those the correct letters that were used in the actual problem. Finally, in words, we are to explain what the slope represents in the context of the problem. So to do this, I look at the labels on the x and the y-axis, and I remember it's the change in y over the change in x. So the y is money, and temperatures would be the x. So I would say that this is $34.80 per degree Celsius. But that's not good enough, what I just wrote. Now you got to change that into a sentence. So I would say that for every 1 degree increase in temperature, this company makes $34.80 more for every 1 degree increase. Okay, if there's anything you still don't understand from this unit, you want to make sure that you see me before your test. Please study.